It's time to give this 8th gen Civic LX with the 1.8 liter 4-cylinder a little more excitement.
Alright guys, to get this install started you're going to need a couple things. A nice length flathead screwdriver, ratchet. Optional is to have 2 extensions, but I have a short and a long extension, 10mm socket, 1/4 inch to, or 3/8 to 1/4 inch adapter, and then a small set of pliers just in case. Along with that, you're also obviously going to want to have your intake and everything to install. Comes with a nice new red filter. Red filters are good for at least an additional 15 horsepower, in case you guys didn't know. So that's awesome. We got all the couplers and everything, new tubes, the fittings, screws, and a little mounting bracket in there, which is that nub right there, but can't really see it. There we go, that right there. And then here is obviously the short ram intake portion right there. Hopping over to the car, got hood popped already. Get things started, obviously got the box. I've already had most of the stock intake off already, which is the lower portion. So it comes out of here, then it goes down, and under the battery tray right here, there are 2 bolts that go in on the other portion. I'll show you guys the stock portion. And that goes down under the battery, up under the reservoir for the coolant, and then there's a little scoop that sits right up here, and there's a little tab that tabs in. I'll show you the other pieces. Now I apologize for this already being out and not having filmed, but I'll try my best to describe and show. So this lower resonator box right here sits back up under here, but behind the metal bracing there, and so it sits under the battery. And so imagine it under the battery here. That scoop is coming out right there. This is running all up under, and it comes up to that coupler there and then into the box. So all this runs under and down, and the air comes up in through here, and then goes all the way down here, and then back up under, and then up in. So all over the place for nothing. We're going to be changing that up. Not expecting too much out of it, but decent bit of difference as far as throttle response. Probably not going to do a whole lot as far as lowering intake air temps, but I will be coming up with some sort of heat shield solution and possible custom piping later on. So we'll see what becomes of that. But let's go ahead and get things started. You're going to want to disconnect the battery. Probably just going to take the whole thing out, make it easier. So negative first and positive. Take off this little wire rail for the MAF sensor, and then you got some bolts. There's one back there, but you'll unclip the box open. I'll show you guys how to do that. So let's get into it.
First thing I'm doing with the top portion of the box off is removing the MAF sensor, and I'm going to carefully install it into the new piping. Be extremely careful when you are removing and installing the MAF sensor. It's pretty sensitive, so just be careful. Make sure it's going the right way. It'll have an arrow to show you which way the air should be flowing, and that's the way you want it facing, but pretty self-explanatory. And then getting the rest of the lower box out, you got a couple hoses that you got to unclamp the little clamps off and slide them off. Gonna clean up the throttle body real quick. Little dirty, not too bad. Just gonna spray some cleaner down there and wipe it out, and we'll keep going. Unboxing the stuff for the new intake, you get 2 coupler clamps, you get a little bracket, mounting bracket spacer, little bracket piece, 2 washers, 2 nuts, 2 little screws, a little Allen key, which is nice, and 2 new hoses, vacuum, and for the other one, coupler for the throttle body to the intake, and then the new filter. Jumping back to the engine bay with the coupler and the clamps on it already, that way we don't have to slide them over anything later on. Just going to quickly test fit the intake pipe, kind of see what we're working with, where it's going to be situated, toss the filter on. Now that we've got an idea of how it's going to look sitting in the engine bay, we're going to go ahead and get to these hoses, get them set up, replace what needs to be replaced, and get them hooked up properly. Now what I'm going to be doing here is a little bit different as far as the coolant hose is concerned. You have the coolant hose that runs to the throttle body, and then another hose that runs from the throttle body back into the block, which is the return. I'm going to be doing a throttle body coolant bypass, which I'm just going to take the new hose we're given, and instead of routing that to the throttle body, I'm just going to put it straight back into the block in the return, and I'll try and show that as best as I can. I don't go too close with the video, but hopefully you can see it, and if you do it yourself, you'll have an idea what I'm talking about. But you got two hoses back there that you just disconnect and everything. Little tricky getting them off, especially if never been removed before and older car, they get worn down. But just size up how much you need, trim the hose to length, and then we're going to keep going with this. With the coolant bypass all done, I just reconnected the little hose to itself on the throttle body. Now we're going to move to the vacuum hose. So I threw the intake on, snugged up just a little bit, grabbing the new hose for the vacuum, just size that up as well. You don't want it to kink over on itself, which this did a little bit, but I ended up getting it worked out fine, so it wasn't an issue. But got that on, and we're going to keep going. Finished up with the vacuum hose. I'm just going to lay the MAF sensor wire underneath the intake for now, but coming over to the computer, taking the shield off of that, the little plastic shield, and there's a nut on the back that we're going to take off, and this is where we're going to install that little brace for the intake pipe itself, but it just screws in to where we just removed that screw from. You put that little bracket on, and then the little brace bushing is going to go on that as well, so you just get that lined up, snugged up a little bit, and then get it worked to how it's going to sit best. You might want to kind of like dry fit test this with the filter on itself. That way it's not going to be an issue when you go to install the filter later, but didn't have too much of an issue with that. Battery wasn't too in the way because I do have it slid forward, but got that snugged down, and we're about ready to start it up and hear it. And that's going to do it for this video. Up next, we're going to be messing with the muffler, take it off, play around with the muffler off, and then we're going to throw in a new and also an SI muffler. So, little difference there, that's going to be fun, but make sure you guys come back to check that out. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, I'd appreciate it if you guys left a like, comment down below, whatever, and if you want to stick around for more content like this, go ahead and subscribe. But I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.